Good morning, everyone. I am Lisa Kaufman with Keenan & Associates. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. I've invited Joseph Telezinski with Cypher Software for California Schools to do a presentation and overview of a client relationship and claims management system for the Riverside Schools Risk Management Authority. And at this time, I'll go ahead and pass it over to Mr. Telezinski and have him walk you through this morning's presentation.
Well, thank you, Lisa. Thank you for having me and giving me this opportunity to present. Good morning or good afternoon or good evening, depending on when you're listening to this recording. Again, my name is Joe Telezinski, and I'm here to talk about Cypher software. But why are you here? Well, I took my best guess, and have you ever had a really great day at work? A day when you had all the answers. A day when your boss really appreciated everything that you do. A day when you felt like a superhero. Well, if all goes well, you're going to find out how you can get that feeling more often. So why am I here? Well, I'm here to talk about Cypher. Cypher is going to save you time and money. It's going to increase your employee efficiency, reduce and prevent costly errors, and easily generate useful data and reports while enhancing communication between risk management, human resources, and payroll. So what is Cypher? Well, Cypher is the only leave tracking and claims management software that's been specifically designed for California public schools, K-12 and community college, to integrate workers' compensation and education code benefits. Now, the company behind Cypher is Telecon Solutions. So who is Telecon Solutions? Telecon Solutions is owned by me, Joe Telezinski, and Carrie O'Connor, and we are workers' compensation and employment law attorneys. We each have more than 15 years of experience representing California public K-12 and community college districts. That's where the idea came from for this product. We've been working with clients just like you for many years, and we identified this as a need that we saw out there. For those of you seeing this before December 2nd, please know that you are invited to join us. We're having a launch party for the product Saturday, December 2nd from 5 to 8 p.m. Here in Riverside at the Courtyard by Marriott. And you can come down and have a little bit to eat and meet the people that are on Team Cypher, the people that will be helping you as a customer, as well as meeting some of the people that beta tested the product. For those of you with the Riverside Schools JPA, this will include your own Judy Miller and Eric Jacqueline from Paris and Harupa, respectively, assuming that they make it out to the event. And I think it's going to be just a nice night, and you'll be able to learn a lot more if you still have questions after today. So today's presentation is based on a survey that was taken of the Riverside Schools JPA in what they were looking for, what you were looking for in a client relationship system. And I have summarized those and placed them in order of importance. And this is how the presentation is going to be structured to address those issues specifically as they are important to you. And by the way, doing my own informal polling, I think your survey results are pretty indicative of what everybody out there is looking for as well. So the first and most important thing is keeping track of work statuses. If somebody's off work, if they're on modified duty, if they've been returned to regular duty. The next thing is the ability to generate reports. Information that will be helpful to you in managing. Having a task calendar, a place where you can look and see everything that's coming up, everything that's due, anything that's overdue. Then we have notes, a place to store correspondence, emails, calls, any files, any communications, everything pertaining to the leave or claim that you're looking at. Is it web-based? Does it have cloud storage? Does it have the ability to add data fields? Does it have a cost management function? And how is the security and the encryption? And these are all things that I'm going to be addressing. So we begin with an overview to provide some context before we get into the specific features. So the first thing that you do when you get Cypher is you go in and you set up all of your employee calendars for the district. So you see a screenshot here. This is a sample. There are only 2 calendars here. You can have as many as you need, 30, 40, 50. Here, my sample, I just have one for certificated and one for classified 12 months. And then here's an example of that calendar. You can see that it notes which days are working days, which days are holidays, and whether they're paid or unpaid. In other months, you would also see if there was a break, winter break, spring break, summer. Cypher then takes this information, and every time you have a leave claim, you attach the appropriate calendar to the employee so that Cypher knows which days are work days and should be used for calculating what benefits are due, as well as keeping track of which days the employee actually performed modified duty, if that's the case. So it knows if you put in a 2-week order, well, not every day obviously is a working day. The system needs to know which ones are and are not working days. Once you've got the calendar set up, then you can come in and create your employee profile. So we have here the claimant's name, and if you look in the upper left-hand corner, you'll also see we have his nickname so that we know what to call him if we call him on the phone and we don't remember. It also shows what calendar that this person is on. And down below that, we get into his personal contact information. Below that is personal detail information, birth date, that kind of thing. We move down to the employment details, classified, certificated, full-time, part-time, hire date, how many hours they normally work a day, information that Cypher needs to calculate. And you'll also see there their wage information, the average daily pay, average weekly earnings, those kind of things. Those are all set up when you initially set up the employee as somebody who needs to take leave. This then is an area that is below that in the software, and this shows you what's going on with this individual as time goes by. You can see at the top that there's an area for claims. If this person had more than one, they would all be listed there. You have related contacts, in this case, a supervisor. We have some open activities. Those are tasks that have been set that have not been completed. Then we have the activity history, which is a listing of tasks that have been completed. And then we have a notes section down at the bottom there, which is where you keep track of any document or other information, any file that you want to attach that relates to this person. And this is actually displaying notes and tasks across the board. So if this person had 3 claims, every note and every task pertaining to every claim would show on this screen because you're looking at the claimant as a whole, not with respect to any specific claim. If you wanted to look at the specific claim, you would just click on this line here where the date of injury is, and that would take you to the specific claim information. And here's an example of that. Here's Mr. Smith's specific claim. We can see his claim number, the date of injury. It's an indemnity claim. It's an industrial leave. Okay, we can also see information about the body parts involved, how it occurred, whether or not there was an ER visit, those kind of things that you need to keep track of. And again, that's information that was set up when the claim first come in. Down here, we see the information of the ongoing claim. Just like before, Above this, you can't see it, but there is the to-dos that are upcoming. Just like here, we have the activity that's already been completed. We have another notes section here to create notes. This one also indicates you can generate letters and forms. Those are considered a type of note because once it's been generated by the system, it is going to automatically prompt you to save it into your notes section. And then we have the work status section, which is kind of the heart of what Cypher does, and that is specifically related to the claim in this case. So speaking of work statuses, that's our first topic, our first feature, and this was your number one most important thing that you were looking for in a system, and we couldn't agree more. Without having the results of your survey, we started this project several years ago with the intent that that would be the hub for everything that Cypher does, and so everything is based around work statuses. Here's an example of entering a work status. This is a regular work or regular duty work status. So what you're seeing on the screen here is a pop-up that comes up when you hit that button to enter a new work status. It doesn't take you to another screen. It just pops this up. Then you would select the work type. You can see right here, regular work has been selected. And then the date range. So the doctor returned this person to work from October 20th through November 2nd. The user then entered some comments here to remind them what's going on. With a trial return to work, we'll reassess at next visit. You would select the claims. In this case, Mr. Smith only has the one claim that we noted earlier. But if there were more claims, you would select which ones that this applies to. The date of the next doctor's appointment, what this is going to do is the system is going to automatically generate a task which will remind you that the employee had a doctor's appointment and you should be looking for a report, a new work status, and just remind you to follow up on that. And we can create automated tasks for, pretty much anything you can think of. You'll just need to let us know, and we will put that in for you so that if you want to be reminded to do something a certain number of days after something happens, a certain number of days before something happens, as long as the system knows enough information to calculate that, bam, it'll create that for you and put it on your calendar to remind you. The last thing here that you see is the attachment area, which you can see that I've uploaded a PR2 form, the one that returned this employee to regular work. So now the work status is connected forever with that report. And if you're looking for the report that gave that work status, there it is right attached to that entry. And now we have an off-work status. Obviously, this person, instead of being out at work, is at home with their dog and their cat. So this is an off-work order, same date range. If applicable, the system will want to know if a sub has been hired, if it's an employee that is going to receive sub differential, and if it depends whether or not a sub was hired as to whether or not the district gets credit for the sub. So it needs to know that information. And then comments, in this case, employee complains of difficulty doing the job. You note which claims it applies to again. You note the next doctor's appointment again. And then you attach the report again. So very similar. Now we're going to get into something a little bit more complex, modified duty. Modified duty has several options. So I'm going to show those to you. So here's one. We indicate it's modified work. Here again is the date range that the order applies to. Over here on the right, you'll see on modified duty, yes or no, and off work due to restrictions, yes or no. So in this case, the employee is not on modified duty. In other words, they were able to, the employee is able to perform the job without modification. And so, but it's not a return to regular work. It is modified work order, so it's entered this way. But it is not going to count as modified duty days in the day count because you have not indicated it to be modified duty. Over here back on the left, we have an indication whether or not it is a reduced workday, because some work restrictions include only working a certain number of hours per day. And if that's the case, you would mark this yes, and you'll see what happens next on a upcoming slide. Comments again. Which claims does this order apply to again? And this is important because Cypher is going to need to know for calculating anything which claims, because they may not all be at the same place in their benefit cycle, and the software knows which one to prioritize, but it does need to know which ones it applies to. Then we have the next doctor's appointment again, and because it's a modified work order, the work restrictions are entered here so that you can see those without having to pull up the doctor's order again, and then you can attach the report here. So our second modified work type here is, if you see on the right, yes on modified duty, meaning this employee is not going to be doing their usual and customary job duties, but they're going to be performing modified duty. This is going to count towards their modified duty day count. So if you have a 60-day limited duty program or some other amount, it's going to keep track, and you're going to not lose sight of those people that are out there doing modified duty and how long they've been out, and not let them exceed their days. In the case of modified duty, it's also going to allow you to enter a location here. That field was not in the previous pop-up. It's only on this one because the employee may be doing their modified duty someplace other than where they normally work. So if you have a maintenance person who gets modified duty and ends up shredding paper or licking envelopes or something in the district office, you're going to indicate the location so you can keep track of where those people are. Again, is it a reduced workday? Comments, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All the same stuff from there down. And then we have our third. So again, modified work. On modified duty, no, but that's because this time they're actually off work due to the restrictions. Either there was no modified duty available within their restrictions, or they've exhausted their modified duty, and now they just have to simply be off. But this is not an off-work order, so we enter it as a modified duty order, which it is, but we indicate the employee is off work due to the restrictions. And just like entering an off-work order, the system wants to know was a sub hired. And then everything from there down is again the same as our previous modified work entries. So now we move on to reports. Our reports give you all the data you need at your fingertips on a moment's notice. So here's an example of our analytics page. When you come to this page, you will see options for different types of reports, and we can certainly create more based on any requests that we get. But right now we have reports for things like the amount of Ed Code benefits paid, the number of days of lost time from work, and those reports can be output in different formats. We have pie charts, graphs. They can be output to an Excel spreadsheet, so you can then take that data and use it elsewhere in other ways. Once you select the output type that you want, then you come over here and you select the fields. Some output types only allow the selection of one field to analyze, some allow two. But you'll come over here and virtually any data that is in here that is consistent across the board, in other words, information that is entered from a list of categories that can be compared apples to apples, one claim against another, will be here and available in this list. You select it. You select the time period you want to analyze. Are you looking at a month? Are you looking at a quarter? Are you looking at a year? Then we have some additional selections here. If you the district selector, just to know it has any questions, is actually there specifically for county offices of education and superintendent of schools, people that oversee more than one district so that they can break out individual districts. But for most of you, that are only in one district, that won't really be applicable to you. I just don't want anyone to be confused about what that is. Then we have the employee type, so you can look at just certificated or just classified or both. You can look at the type of leave. You can look at only the industrial leave, you can look at only the non-industrial leave, or you can look at a combination of everything. So these are super customizable, and we can even do more as time goes by. Once you've entered all the information, you just hit Run Analytics, and then it's going to provide you your report. So here we see the results of the previous screen. This is the EdCode Benefits Paid Report. You can see over here which departments, because it was a department sorting report that we wanted to look at, where is the most EdCode benefits being paid out, where's the least being paid out. Here it's displaying in percentages. If this were live, if you were looking at the software and you hovered over each of these pie slices, you would also see a dollar amount displayed. We can always change that so that the dollar amount shows if that's more important information to you. But this is the current way that it's set up, is to show by percentages so that you can just see, rather than looking at dollars and comparing them. It's real easy to see which is your biggest slice here and which is your smallest slice here by percentage. Okay, now we're on to Task Calendar. This is how you're going to make sure nothing falls through the cracks again. So this here is my little Grim Reaper, and the Grim Reaper says, "Don't miss another deadline." Okay. So this is the pop-up that you get when you want to enter a task into the system. You're going to indicate which claims that this particular task applies to. Again, if it pertains to more than one, you want to make sure that the system understands that, so that when you're looking at each claim that it's attached to, it will be there for you, but not on ones that it doesn't pertain to. We have different categories of tasks, so you're going to indicate what type. This type of task is, I need to send a notice to the employee, probably. In this case, the FMLA notice. This is an open task. It has not been completed. You see who it's assigned to. You see when it's due. You can indicate that this is confidential, which will restrict certain people's ability to access it. And then you put the information about what the task is in here. And you can add any attachments if you have any. And then this puts it on your task calendar. Here's an example of the task calendar. This is a fiscal year view, July 1 through June 30. The ones marked in red here have overdue tasks. The ones marked in yellow are incomplete but not yet due. If I had any that were completed on here, you would see those marked in green. In fact, there's even a little legend down here in the bottom right. This is the calendar view on the right-hand panel. You can also filter the tasks view that you get by the user that the task is assigned to, so you can look at just your tasks or just another user's tasks. Like if they're out, you need to see what they're supposed to do while they're gone. The type of task, so is it sending a notice? Is it a reminder about a medical appointment? Is it a deposition? Is it a hearing? Whatever type of task it is, so that you can just see those if that's all you're looking for. And then statuses, you can look at only the open tasks that haven't been completed. You can look at only closed ones if you're looking for one that you know was done. Whatever you want to do there. Then this section here is the same information that's here on this calendar is here in this list. So, but here you can actually see who the employee is, due date, the type of task, the status of the task, open, complete, a little bit of the details, just enough to remind you of what's going on. You can always click on that and open it back up and see. You can display more, but it would show you everything that's on the view that you're looking at. So everything for this year would be displayed in this list, and you could just go through and it's showing you 5 of the 10. You could hit next, or you could change the number of entries that you view so that you could see everything that you need to see. These columns are also sortable, so if you want to look at them alphabetically, by due date, certain types, these are all sortable fields as well. This is also a task calendar, but now we're looking at the monthly view. You can see a little bit more of what's going on here, and everything over here on the right is the same, except the one difference is that this section here that displays the tasks is now only showing the tasks that are on this view. It's only showing the September tasks. You're not seeing all the tasks for the entire year. It's just showing you what you're looking for. There's also a week view. You can see there's only 2 tasks here. And then finally, if you wanted to, you could go all the way down to the single day. Probably not going to use this unless you have so many tasks that you're going to want to see a big old list here. Otherwise, I think probably the weekly or monthly is going to be most useful for most people. Okay, so now we're on to the notes function. This is where we keep everything in one place for everyone who needs it. So get rid of your 3-ring binders, throw away your stacks of paper. It's all going to be here in Cypher. So this is the notes section here. We talked about this a little bit earlier. If you want to create a new note, you click on the button and it gives you that pop-up I showed you. And if you want to generate a letter or form, you would click on there. And then it'll show up here once you've saved it with a little description of what it is, the type of note that it is, so that you can find what you're looking for. And there's also search functionality over here off to the right of all of these sections, so that if you're looking for something within one of those sections and you don't want to scroll through, especially once you start getting a lot of them, you can just type some information in here that is in the text of what you're looking for, and it'll just show you the ones that match that criteria. Super easy. Here's an example of a note. So you get this pop-up, and you're going to attach it to whichever claims it applies to, one or all or whatever. The type of note, just like tasks, there are types. There are different types. This would be a general note. There might also be correspondence as a type, phone calls as a type, whatever types of notes that you keep, and you want to be able to find something that you're looking for later by narrowing it down into specific types. You're going to put a subject in here, just like you're doing an email. You're going to put a subject line. You can mark it as confidential again, just like with tasks. And then you're going to put the body text of what this note is about. Spoke with employee, called to ask question about benefit payments, answered question easily, employee satisfied. I sure am glad I have Cypher. Oh, that's a sweet user. Okay, now we were talking about also being able to generate documents. And again, it's a note function. And this is going to auto-populate certain things once you've selected what it is that you want to do. When you generate a letter or form, it's always going to be the same type. And the subject line is going to be filled in here based on the type of document that you selected to create. And then you're going to have your description here, and the actual form itself is going to be attached to that note, so you'll know exactly where to find it when you need it. Web-based cloud storage. Cypher goes where you go. Yes, Cypher is definitely a web-based cloud storage application. All of the data is stored in the clouds on secure servers. This allows the users to access the data in the field wherever you may be, whether you're in a meeting, whether you're at an accident site, whether you're at a school site. As long as you have internet access, you're going to be able to get into the system. You're going to be able to answer questions. Those reports we showed earlier, you can create those on the fly if you need to. If somebody says, hey, how much did a certain department lose time? How much time did they lose last month or last year? You'll have that information in seconds. And then because we are taking care of the hosting of all this data, your IT personnel are not going to have to worry about this. You're not going to have to spend money on additional server space or dedicate any more of your own resources to maintaining and storing this information. We're going to take care of it on our end for you, and then it'll be available to you wherever you are. Okay, the next question was about adding data fields. And now, with respect to the ability to add data fields, we do not currently have that capability. Please understand, this is a brand new product. We just released it, and as part of this, we are still refining and improving it, and will be probably forever, honestly. But even within the first year or so, I expect that there's going to be a lot of upgrades, improvements, and we expect that that's going to come primarily from you, the users, telling us what else you want, what else would be useful to you, what would help you. Well, if it helps one person, it's probably going to help other people too. So rather than allow users to create their own custom fields, which I think is a fantastic feature, however, we want that information. We want you to make the request and let us know that, hey, this field would be helpful, that field would be helpful, so that we can determine whether or not this is something that should be done for you exclusively and or made optional to other people, or whether it's something we should just implement across the board to everybody who uses Cypher. So we're not letting people set up their own yet, because we want the requests. We want to know what else we can do to make this more beneficial to everyone that uses it. Okay, so again, this was on purpose. However, we definitely want to add customizability once we get past that initial phase of getting lots of feedback from users, and we've implemented as many of those changes make sense. Then we'll go ahead and open it up to allow users to do their own customization. Cost management. Cost management is also a feature that we would like to implement. However, it's not in Cypher at the moment because we don't know what you need for this feature. We were happy to add it. We're looking forward to it. In fact, the way the framework of the software has been created, the notes functionality that I've been showing you that already allows you to generate letters and other things and forms can also be easily modified to allow you to track costs. It's just we haven't done it because we need information from users in order to add that functionality. And it wasn't initially seen as a crucial feature before we released the product because we've addressed all the ones that you said were most important already, which we also thought were the most important ones. Security and encryption. Well, this was low on the survey list, but I can only assume that that's because everyone just knows that it better be secure, and so nobody thought it had to be ranked all that highly, and I agree. I think you're right. Assuming that that's what you're thinking, we certainly think that security is a high priority and one of the most important things, and we have acted accordingly in creating the software. It's state-of-the-art, the same type of data encryption used by major banks, and it's on everything that comes and goes. It's our servers, we have trusted servers that are constantly being monitored to make sure that there aren't any breaches or problems like that. Most of you probably aren't super technical, and neither am I, to be honest. That's what I have a team for, and they take care of all this stuff. But if you do want specific information about security, I'm happy to put anybody in touch or your IT people in touch with my people to confirm that everything that we have is up to snuff and at least as good as what you're doing for yourselves within your districts, if not better. Obviously, all the standard stuff, user authentication. We have different level of permissions so that you can determine how much access the employees in your district have to use the software. Not everybody's going to necessarily have full access to everything. You're going to be able to say, well, this person only needs to be able to see what's in there, but they don't need to go in there and change stuff. Or some people, well, they should be able to change this information, but not that information. So it's customizable. We can set the permissions differently for different people so that only the right people have the right access. This would be the time for questions and answers. However, we're not live, so I'm assuming there aren't going to be any. However, if you do have questions, don't be afraid to ask. You can get a hold of me at Telecon Solutions. My number is there on the screen, 844-4-CYPHER. That's Cypher with a Y, CYPHER, or by email at information@teleconsolutions.com. Remember, that's the company that makes Cypher for y'all. And be happy to answer anything. If you're getting this before the launch party, please feel free to come out, but please RSVP ahead of time. We do have limited space for the event, and it is filling up quickly. But I want to get as many of you in there as possible. Come out and meet the team. And but either way, I'm happy to come out and meet with you, show you a live demo of the product, or provide you any additional information that you like. All right, and thank you very much for joining me today on this webinar.
Thank you so much, Joe, and I appreciate your time and putting all of this information together, and wishing everyone a wonderful day. Thanks.
Thank you.